What are you looking at? Hello and welcome back, and that is right. Today we want to talk about another surveillance product. We've talked about cameras here on the channel for a while, and we've talked about network attached storage that includes its own highfalutin surveillance program inside. But today I'm going to talk about something a wee bit different. I want to talk about this. This is the eufy S330 a complete surveillance solution. So for those of you that have been looking in the past on this channel about surveillance and looking at cameras to go with your NAS, and you've looked at a lot of the AI supported services and looked at things like human recognition, facial recognition, pet vehicle detection, smart motion, AI supported services and the like, you'll know that an AI supported surveillance NAS is not cheap. Either you have to go for one of the ones that's got kind of an inbuilt x86 64-bit processor and GPU chip on board, or taking advantage of Google's TPU via the M2 slot. Trust me, what all that means is you're looking at a spend of about, at least on the NAS on its own, of about 500 to 600 nicker, and that's without the storage drives inside. And then you've got to go out and get your cameras, which we've talked about on the channel before. And the reason I'm telling you that tremendously long shopping list is because this device knocking around for about $540 to $550. So again, in the UK, I'm not 100% certain it's been released yet, but if it is, it should be linked in the description. Again, that will knock around for about $499 probably. This is a complete solution. It's got 2 cameras included with it, as well as the base station. You can add cameras as well. But even then, if you're thinking one camera out front, one camera out back, and everything in the middle being recorded, you're not going to need any more. And for this sort of price, when I start divulging into what this thing has included and what it can do, it's genuinely an incredibly groundbreaking bit of kit for the price tag there. So straight away, you may have already noticed on the big splashy box there on the front, this is both a 4K UHD surveillance system and it's solar powered. Now, the actual base station, the home station in the middle, that's mains powered. It's USB-C straight into the mains outlet there, and it will connect with your local area network and as well as your outside internet if you route it in. But the cameras are the thing I really want to talk about indeed. Normally at this point on the video I would do an unboxing and sort of go through a lot of the internals there, which I will do in just a moment. But I just want to talk about the cameras themselves very, very quickly. This is each of the individual units. Let's remove that bit of plastic there. And the first thing you may notice is a big old solar panel there at the top. Now you get 2 of these inside, and these are 4K cameras. Again, when we do the software bit later on in this video, I'm going to have a look at the frame rate that is supported on board. I like to hope it's at least 15 to 25 frames, maybe even higher. But each one of these has got that solar panel and a staggering 13,000 milliamp battery inside. That means on the lowest settings, according to eufy, that this can run on a full charge for a year. 365 days of power in a full solar charge there. So you don't have to worry if it's not sunny for a few days on the trot. As long as that battery's full, you can really fill your boots on what this can do. Now, I mentioned earlier on about AI support. The reason I brought that up is another thing about this device that really surprised me when I first heard about it, is that it's got AI powered recognition, and it's called bionic mind software on board, and the AI supported services. Now what that means is you've got your usual motion detection, line of detection, that sort of thing, guided pathways and such. But it's the pet recognition, it's the human recognition, it's the vehicle recognition, but the one that stood out for me the most was facial recognition. And that's one that massively gets overlooked whenever I talk about surveillance equipment here on the channel. Person, vehicle and pet recognition have been around on multiple other platforms, and having a camera that will go, a dog has run across the camera, is all fair and well. You want to know that it's a dog and not a burglar. But the idea that you can store recorded faces such as family members and more, and then leave the cameras running outside 24/7 means that it's not going to give you a false alert when your children come home from school every day. It's not going to give you an alert every time you rock up home from work, which is really important. And apparently the AI inside does kind of aggregate learn over time about patterns of behaviour. But again, later on in the video, I'll try and bench test that, but I think you'd have to have this running for several weeks or months for that to really be anything that can show off. But it's that 4K camera and that massive battery that was the first thing that really clicked with me. The AI supported services are, if anything, a huge bonus. Now that 4K view there has also got on board a bunch of LEDs as well as a spotlight that we'll talk about in a bit. It can cover a distance of 10 meters of night vision, and again that's 4K still running there beautifully. There is a floodlight there on the top which you can activate manually, or you can get the camera to activate the light during nighttime, during motion detection in line with the AI supported services, and write schedules there as well. In terms of recording and storage, these devices themselves don't have any storage on them. They've got the USB there that charges, USB Type-C if you want to charge them manually, and each of these have got audio in and out, so you can give voice to anything that's on camera and also record sound coming in. But if we move these to one side, we can talk about the next little device inside this box that's really impressive. This isn't a NAS, although in terms of surveillance it won't be dissimilar. This is your home station. This is the thing that connects to the rest of your home. These are connected wirelessly to this. These don't have to sync with your Wi-Fi. You don't have to worry about 2.4 or 5 gigahertz frequency compatibility there. This can be connected via LAN or Wi-Fi, but let's face it, LAN would be better, to your main home network. Synchronization between these is a one-click procedure between them, not unlike WPS on a router, and this system is ultimately the thing that makes the magic happen. All of the AI recognition, all of that stuff is happening inside here. Now, if we remove this top panel with this ventilated panel, the other thing I really want you to have a look at there, alongside that huge amount of ventilation for cooling, is, and we get our screwdriver out, a storage bay. Now, the system has 16 gig of already default storage internally. So it's got 16 gig, which is all right to be getting on with, but if you're going to use high fidelity recordings, 16 gig is going to hit its limit quite quickly. What it does have is a storage bay. This is a 2.5 inch SATA storage bay there. That means, and also the fact that it's a 15mm height, means this can support up to 6 terabyte SSDs inside there. That's the latest generation of 5 and 6 TB 15mm high 2.5 inch drives there. That's an enormous amount of storage, and outside of NAS and outside of those large box DVRs that use big mechanical hard drives, that is one of the biggest amounts of storage I've seen, especially for a device of this scale. Look at the size of my hand and it, which leads us onto that back panel there. Now, we've already mentioned there's a 1 gigabit Ethernet port there, a CAT port that's for your network, but we've also got a couple of USB ports. And yes, you can attach a USB drive. You don't even need to use a 2.5 inch drive there when you can use external storage with this. Think about that. This device connected into your home router or a switch with a USB drive inside it. You've got 4K outdoor solar cameras. It really is an incredibly impressive surveillance solution for the home, and one that's going to be exceedingly easy to deploy. Now, we are going to make our way onto the software in just a moment. I will say this does not support network attached storage. It does not have OmViv built into it. It is designed to be very much its own device here. So you're not going to be able to use this with an existing Synology or QNAP surveillance system. But at the same time, if one of the reasons you were buying a network attached storage device was purely for surveillance, this may well be worth a look. I'm going to hold off full judgment until I see that software and also test these cameras out and see the frame rate. But for now, what I'm hearing in terms of the hardware is really, really impressive to me. I haven't even touched on, these are IP67 rated. So IP67 is one of the highest you can go for. We've talked about cameras in the past, and generally IP66 is the standard for where most of these outdoor cameras cover. That's water ingress, dust, and frost. IP67 is about as high as it goes. IP68 it gets very hard to utilize that and have any kind of connectivity on a device. So these being rated IP67, particularly that price point and all of them being included in that single kit, is again very, very impressive. Now, If we look at the rest of the retail kit, we can get that out of there. Random bit of plastic, random bit of card, don't care about those. We have got the stations where we can utilize and install to the back of the cameras. So again, you can have these deployed and set up to be wall mounted very, very easily there, And we have another one there for the other camera. Also inside, we have got our external mains power unit, and this is the mains power unit for this device here. But we've also got the USB-A to Type-C cable for charging cameras if you choose to charge them. And on top of that, you've also got a standard Ethernet cable to connect this to your local area network, and screws and fixings for attaching these devices to the appropriate walls outside of your home there. And remember, you don't have to use them outside your house, which is quite important, because yes, they're solar paneled and that's the way they're going to be charged. But if you don't want to use them outdoors, which would be weird, but you're not restricted to it, you can either periodically charge them and that massive battery inside for them to last days, weeks, months, or up to a year, or just run them off a USB power point anyway. So again, you've got a little bit of flexibility there, though frankly, it would be wasted not to use these at the front and back of your home. So again, you've got the positioning card for attaching the cameras to the walls. You've also got the standard stickers you can stick outside your house to ward off people. Again, bit naff, but I like that they're there. And then you've got quite a professional instruction manual there. So again, you have got all the online resources if you need to, but there's lots of information there in a colour detailed guide on setting the device up for the first time, as well as directions to utilising the mobile application if you want to connect these either via the USB or using Wi-Fi connections in order to connect the whole infrastructure up. Again, it's a very detailed kit, and a lot of work has gone into making this exceedingly home consumer desirable. Yes, you could put these around an office, but frankly, a package like this is screaming home user, particularly prosumer family home user. And at that price point, again, remember, 500 to about 550 nicker, the S330 from Eufy is definitely ticking boxes for me there. And remember, if you haven't heard of Eufy, EUFY, they also trade under the name ANKER for a lot of sound equipment as well. But for now, what we're going to do is get this device set up in an outdoor environment so we can take a good look at what the software provides to us, also what the picture quality of those larger scale camera lenses are there. I'd like to see the frame rate and hopefully understand whether this is still as good a camera kit as the hardware would seem to indicate. Okay, so we've made our way onto the desktop of my Android device. This is a Pixel 6 Pro running the latest version of Android, and we've got the Eufy Security app installed. We're also using screen recording software, which means, although it should come through lovely and smooth for these 4K cameras, there is the potential that the frame rate may be slightly limited. So I'll try my best throughout this to show you the different frame rates that are possible on this. But this is the interface you see here. We've got those two cameras set up in two different locations. Now, we can have these running as a live feed, but what we'll do for now is we'll go into our first camera there. I'm going to be sure just to mute the camera so we don't get any feedback loops there on the recording. And as you can see, that is our interface there. So we can zoom in pretty darn sharp all the way along. And remember, this is a 4K resolution there. And again, if we like, we can rotate it if we choose, but then of course that will be problematic for our screen recording there, so I'm not going to do that. And there's kind of a lot of options on the immediate user interface for us there. So before we go into any settings or menus of an individual S330 cam, let's have a little look at the options. So first and foremost, what we can do is do a localized recording like so. And then from there, if we tap that button on the bottom right, bottom left, I should say, that will save a recording to our local phone device. So anything that happens in situ that you want to record to your local device, you can do. The same goes if you want to do a snapshot to your local device, as you can see there. Again, if there are any problems there displaying that on screen, there's a good chance, because we're using screen recording software, that may be the cause. Now, there is audio in and out, as mentioned. I'm not going to emulate that at this point. You will see at the end of the video in a way, but I didn't want to use it simply because they're on the screen. If I do that, we'll get a feedback loop of the noise, so we're going to hold off there. Now, we can look at the other options that are available. So again, what we can do is go through some of the different events, and we'll get onto those later on. So if we go back to the devices, can make our way back into the camera. Other things that we do from this interface, that we can put it into sleep mode if we choose, or night mode. We can activate the onboard light if we choose there, or activate the alarm as we see fit in the event of anything we need to alert ourselves to. Now, I could try to use the light, but of course using the spotlight right now in daylight would be fairly useless. Also, I've disabled that feature just for now, and I'll show you later on in the video about that. But for now, that's kind of what you see there from the feed. So what about if you want to configure an individual camera? Well, the camera settings are actually incredibly user-friendly for a camera that by rights should be a little bit more complex than this, which I was actually quite impressed by. You can see from the top left there that we're running on that battery power and Wi-Fi. We can disable the camera if we choose. Obviously, we're not going to do that. In terms of motion detection, you can choose both the sensitivity of the motion and the type of detection there on the bottom of the screen. Now again, we will be going through some of the alerts later in the video. We can also activate an area of effect. I know the screen is going to rotate there, but if I chose to, what I can do is move the screen recording software. Again, I can create an area of effect if I choose. We'll put that there, and you can completely adapt these as you see fit. And again, when you've created your area of effect, all you got to do is click save and then click back to return to the user interface there. Indeed, on the other camera, if we come out of that and make our way into my secondary camera, I've already enabled an area of effect from this camera that I've mounted up nice and high. So if we go into the settings there and we go into the motion detection, and from there I've increased the sensitivity because it's a raised area, and as you can see from there, I've already created a nice bespoke area of coverage that would show vehicles, show people, or anyone mounting that low wall there. If we make our way back into that previous camera again, and as you can see, it's lovely and responsive, navigating these menus there as we go through the 4K resolution. On a subject to 4K in the resolution settings, what we can do is adapt the streaming quality if we choose to be much higher. It's worth highlighting, if we go to the higher resolution recording there with the Ultra 4K, which I'll show off now, it may affect our capture recording, so you may not see the full frame rate there. And again, the same goes for the recording quality. You can scale that if you choose, so that the live feed is incredibly high quality, but the recordings are low quality, and vice versa, of course, which is what a lot of people are going to opt to use. The same goes for night vision mode. You can go ahead and use the internal infrared sensors that we mentioned earlier on to have a color night spectrum if you choose, or go for standard black and white vision there, which has a larger area of coverage, all of which can be enabled. But as it's during the daytime now, you wouldn't really see the full area of effect on that for now. We will be doing a follow-up video on this camera where we're going to do a few setup guides after the review. But for now, another thing we can do is create a privacy zone. So say, for example, there's a window to a neighbour's house, or even a window in your own house that you want to cover up. You can, if you choose, create an area of blank coverage like there on covering that window, and then boom, from that moment onwards, that area will not be captured in the recordings. It will only show that privacy mask. So again, lots of different settings there, and if you're a business user, you can take advantage of some of the timestamps and watermarks there. So there's a decent degree of configuration options there, but a number of you are asking, again, not just about this camera, but other cameras we talked about in the past when it comes to solar panels, just how good, one, are solar panels, and two, solar panels that are built into the camera. Is there not a concern with regards to heat and the general operation of the camera? Now, this camera, the S330 there from eufyCam, does proclaim itself a 365 recording camera, or active camera. That is, that it has an extensive battery life, as mentioned in the intro, but also tops itself up with the solar panel, and therefore can potentially run for 365 days with the right configuration settings. Now, if we go into the power settings there, you can see that we can optimize surveillance. So power is being utilized towards surveillance settings. It will increase the recording quality. It will increase the length of the recordings and prioritize those. But of course, that will use a little bit more power. Or you can customize it and create a much more bespoke recording pattern by changing those options on the customized recording area to say what are your priorities. Now, as you can see, there's detection statistics at the top to allow you to have a better idea of what's the best suited options for you. And if you go to the bottom, you can have a little look at the different settings and options of that battery. So for example, what we can do is have a look at the battery pack there that it's running from, or you can change to the external solar panel for immediate power usage. Now, as you can see from the solar dashboard there, it'll give you some idea how much power has been utilized and garnered from the camera. Now, unfortunately, it is not that sunny here in the UK today. This is the 27th of September. It is quite cloudy out there. Even with the two cameras in areas of sunlight there, we're not able to utilize those statistics, but it's nice to have that amount of understanding about just how much energy you are saving compared with a camera that you would have powered via PoE or utilized another power source there via mains power outlet. Now, as mentioned in the introduction, there is a spotlight on this camera which will allow you to activate on a whim or have the light activated by detection settings, which you can turn on at any time. Again, it's going to be very hard to show you that on the mobile application there. The anti-theft detection allows you to, in the event that the camera is moved from its area of utilization. So, for example, if you do have it highly mounted and someone comes along and smashes the camera in the attempt to get into your property and not be caught on camera, you can have it so that an alarm will be sounded if the camera is moved in any way, or if the camera is disconnected from the original area network, and that alarm can be set to appear from both the camera and the home base station there. But for now, we're not going to organize that because unfortunately the audio feedback, as mentioned, would be problematic. Now, going into audio settings, as mentioned, this is an audio in and out camera. I've already done some testing of the audio. Again, it's what you would expect. It's a small microphone there, so it's not going to give you kind of stereo quality, but it still will most certainly be able to portray audio back and forth via the recorded method there. And again, you can choose whether you want those recorded and maintained or not. Now, we've gone to notifications. This is an area where a lot of people kind of fall over when it comes to cameras, particularly smart cameras in their home environment, because you can get a bombardment of alerts. Have a look there. While I've been doing this, I've already had an alert of motion detection while we've been talking. Now, because of things like the movement of the trees and more non-smart or non-AI powered cameras, or cameras that don't take advantage of PIR, will give you too many alerts. So you can choose how you want these alerts delivered. Now, in the case of this camera, that's not a problem because you can have it to only recognize things that the AI set up. Now, I've set one of these cameras to be all motion and another camera to be only the motion supported by the AI and Bionic. There you go, another vehicle detection there at the top. Now, again, you can choose how you want these alerts to be sent to you, whether you want them to have an alert, whether you want them to be just a vibration or more. And you can also choose how they're delivered to you. Do you want the most efficient, so it's a pop-up at the top, or do you want a full thumbnail information all available to you to give you much more information on the nature of the alert there? And again, that can be set up quite easily, and probably within this recording you're going to see that alert kick off. Now, the general settings of the camera, again, you can rename it if you choose to different areas, of course. You can choose whether you want the status LEDs to be visible on the system, so you can do troubleshooting. One lovely area, of course, that we've talked about is storage, because you can utilize different recording methods via RTSP, which is equivalent to that of FTP connectivity in a number of ways, to migrate your recordings to another device to have a backup of your storage. Now, these cameras aren't really designed to work with a NAS. They are designed to work with the base station of the S330 eufyCam setup. But it's still nice to have that layered backup there. We will talk a little bit about in storage just a moment. And again, there's the usual mounting guides and setup that you get during the initialization of these camera devices, but that's really it for the general setup of the device. You can share the camera's feed with another user via the eufyCam if you choose, so you can have it so that if you've got multiple family members that are monitoring the surveillance setup, they can all access the cameras at the same time, as well as be alerted either individually or together as things occur. Now, if you look at both of these cameras, they give you the same level of control and configuration there. So again, you're getting two cameras there, both giving you that fantastically high quality feed as needed. Probably one of the highest quality 4K cameras I've utilized there. Like, that quality is pretty fantastic. Yes, we are still using a digital zoom there, unfortunately, but still, it's a lovely feed, and you can see there at the top that privacy screen that we enabled is also visible right now. Now, if we come out, the next thing we want to talk about is the base station itself. The base station itself has its own dashboard, as you can see here. So, for example, faces that have been recognized or you've uploaded manually will appear here, and you can choose to add faces manually from your mobile device and either take a photo of someone to add them to the recognized database, or you can just select a photo you've already taken and then upload them to that database. Also from there, if we come out, you can go into the AI empowerment and you can choose whether you want to use the bionic AI recognition within the camera to make sure that Bionic Mind AI is kind of recognizing, giving you the right appropriate alerts and recordings to your needs. Now, what's really intriguing, of course, as mentioned in the intro, is this storage area. Now, the base station itself comes with 16 gig of internal storage by default, but as you can see there at the bottom, we have installed a 2.5 inch SATA 1 TB drive. Now, there are very few cameras I know on the market that have the 4K resolution settings, the compact wireless setup with the base station, but also support a 2.5 inch drive. They're not the only ones, of course. SATA storage in 3.5 inch drives isn't uncommon, but normally they're quite unwieldy. They're large NVR setups that have got wired PoE cameras. This is the first time I've seen this combination of very convenient items to be very discreet and at the same time wireless across the whole surveillance setup, and they really do get high points from me on that. Now, the video archive, as you can see, there is different information about archives if you want to browse or if you want to back up to a localized device or that RSTP as we mentioned earlier on. But for now, we can go into the settings of the base station, because once again, you can set up a number of different things. You can go ahead and choose the audio settings about that alarm that we mentioned earlier on. You can choose the notifications about when things are changed, whether you want the base station to alert you to different changes via that connection from things that are noticed by the camera. From the general settings, you can change a lot of the different working modes, whether you want the camera to work in a much more efficient power mode or the standard all-time recording. And overall, it's just a nice setup there. It's not difficult to follow, and it is very user-friendly. Now, going back to that main screen, we can talk about some of these options on the bottom of the app. Now, the Explorer option is more of a retail outlet, so we're not going to give that too much time of day. But what we can do is change a number of the presets of the device. So as you can see, we've got home mode enabled right now, which means that when I'm in the home and my app is recognized on the network with the device, it starts recording. Or you can set up the away system where the cameras will immediately activate and switch to away mode when I am nearby, when I leave the local area network. Sorry about the beeping there. So as you can see, as we're going through this, if you can go into disarm mode if you choose, so you can disable all your triggers. You can go to geofencing, so it will only alert those areas that we've highlighted. You can run a schedule system of recording. And again, a lot of these might be a lot more beneficial on an internal home setup, but still on an external home setup, they are still very desirable indeed. Or you can create your own customized setup with different security protocols and different alerts as needed. Now, if we move away from that, we can go to the automation where you can combine the system with other AI supported services and hardware there. Unfortunately, we don't have any of those to hand right now, but it's still nice to know you've got those AI supported services that you can work in conjunction with the eufyCam setup. Now, in the events log, this is where things are actually quite intriguing, because as you can see right there on screen, we've got a bunch of alerts there. So for example, on that front camera, we can go there and it's seen that someone has walked across there and it has identified it as a human, and therefore it has alerted the camera there as someone's walking back and forth over that area of capture. And again, from the bottom, you can choose to do a number of things. You can share this footage, you can save it to later on, or save it locally to your own device. So the same goes. If we go ahead, we can go into the front door recording, and there's me walking along, going outside, setting up some of the cameras. And again, it's just nice that it's able to recognize a lot of these things with remarkable ease. Now, again, if we go back, we can make our way into a previous day record, for example. We'll go back onto the 26th. And as you can see from here, there are different areas of recording. But what we can do is preset to look at individual recordings from different cameras. So if we go into the porch, for example, here, and we go to the porch recordings, from there we can see different types of alerts. So as you can see, we've got a human alert there of someone walking past, but also vehicle recognition has been identified there. So these are quite nice to have tailored alerts where you can say, I don't really care if it recognises a vehicle, I only want to know if it's a person, and then via the filtration of the alert system, you can drill down to the things that you actually care about being alerted to you there. And with facial recognition being rolled in as well, it allows you to be able to add these to your existing database where appropriate if need be. So again, that's kind of an idea of the alerts that you can get on this system as you make your way along. And if we go to the other camera system there and we go to the front door cam, or we go, for example, to yesterday when I had the camera indoors in low light, we're able to see different levels of alert there. So, for example, we can go for this one here that clearly has both a person and a camera recording there in the background. So it's recognised both a person and an animal there in the background. The same goes if we go for this one there where a cat has walked off the field of view. You can see that it has recognised that cat all the way along, even though my hand was in the way for the captured snap. So there's lots of different series and settings there that we can play with and enable. And with all that recognition via that Bionic Mind AI, it means that you're not utilising wasted space or alerts. And you can see it has recognised that it knows I'm in that field of view, and it's recognised because I've uploaded that image of myself into the application. And bear in mind that everything I've showed you today doesn't need any kind of subscription. That's one of the kind of tells when it comes to a lot of surveillance systems. Either one, the AI supported services are behind a paywall and therefore remote cloud supported, or if they are local, you have to be overly reliant on cloud storage providers for that larger amount of recorded footage. You haven't got either of those things to be concerned with here, because one, all the AI supported services are being handled in the system, and two, all of the storage is in the system with support of massive 2.5-inch SSDs, which go up to 5 or 6 TB by current recollection there, and all of that with no subscription costs. Yes, there are cloud services if you want them, if you want to add another tier to your system, and you can add different services for remote backups there included from the brand, but they're not compulsory, and that's really, really important. And that combined with the 4K resolution there, either as recording or as live feeds, or both as needed, and the 365-day coverage via the solar panel and the massive internal battery, I mean, this camera is getting serious high results from me. Let's summarise the review. And there you have it. That is my eufyCam 330 review. I really liked it. I loved the 4K resolution. It was incredibly sharp, and the AI supported services there did not let me down. Overall, the solar power 365-day of coverage with a solar panel really blew me away in terms of its overall 24/7 utilization. And of course, that 2.5-inch SATA support there. Fantastic stuff to give real premium level storage available. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Do let me know in the comments if you did, and click subscribe if you want to learn more, as we cover this subject in more and more detail in both 2022 and 2023. There are links in the description to where to buy this product, along with any other active discounts I can find, and a written review coming very, very soon. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.